What's happening, guys? It's Jeremy Blanton with RE/MAX Southern Shores, and today I want to share a few things with you. And if you're thinking about moving to the area, before you reach out to me or to anybody about doing it, take some time, watch this. And if you cannot be okay with the things we're about to talk about, then Myrtle Beach might not be the place you want to move. So the first thing on the list that I want to discuss with you is the extreme severe weather that we have here in our area. Some people are not okay with it. They freak out when they hear that there's a tropical storm, a tropical depression, or a hurricane that's coming into our area, and they don't want to have to deal with it. Now, I have lived here in Myrtle Beach since 1998, so I'm well over 25 years. I'm considered a local now in the area that has lived here and been through many, many tropical storms, hurricanes, tropical depressions, tornadoes, all of those different things over the years. The thing I can tell you is this: I consider the extreme weather, the severe weather that we deal with here, very similar to dealing with snowstorms when we lived up in the Northeast. When a storm is coming in the Northeast during the winter, everyone starts freaking out. Oh, it's the snowmageddon coming through. It's the snowpocalypse. It is the storm of the century. We're going to have all of this snow come. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be the worst thing in the world. And everybody starts freaking out. They run to the store. They buy all the bread. They buy all the milk. And what ends up happening? You end up getting 3 inches of snow and you're back outside the next day. But during that week leading up to it, everyone's freaking out and doesn't know what to do. Well, the same thing is pretty true here in our area for hurricanes. It happens during the summer instead of in the winter. You're going to see on the Weather Channel and on all of these other news stations, they're going to start talking about this severe storm coming through the area. And you're going to start to see all of these spaghetti models that show up, that show its potential path of where it could go. And it literally looks like somebody takes a pile of spaghetti and just throws it against the wall and says, here's our potentials of what's going to happen with this storm. Some from direct hit in the Myrtle Beach area, to some never touching anything, to some going west to Texas in the Gulf of Mexico, and everything in between. When there's a storm that's coming, you want to pay attention to the local news stations and pay attention to them. I personally am a big fan of Ed Piotrowski, and I watch his stuff, but even him, if you don't watch him, you can also watch WMBF, and they have a good local station that covers the storms. They're both going to keep it straight. They're going to shoot you straight on it. They're going to tell you what to know and what could potentially come from that storm. We just had a storm recently come through our area, Hurricane Debbie. And when it started out, the news stations and the news cycles were talking about it being historic flooding, to catastrophe, is going to be this horrible thing. We're going to see 25 inches of rain and it's going to destroy the entire thing. And if you listen to certain stations, it make it sound like all of Myrtle Beach was going to be under 6 feet of water by the time the storm came through. But as the storm got closer and as things started to form and things started to develop, it went from being the storm of the century with the most historic rain we've ever seen down to 15 to 20 inches, then down to 15 inches, then to 10 inches, then to 8 inches, until it was said and done in the Carolina Forest area where I live, we saw about 6 inches. Now, there are parts in our area that did see some catastrophe. There was some flooding that took place, so I don't want to make it sound like it was nothing at all. We did see a little bit of severe weather in our area. But when you're picking the place to live, you want to be with someone who can inform you what's going on, looking at residential property disclosures to make sure we know, does this area flood? If you're buying something on the river, you're taking on the potential of having a home to flood, and you know that, but you okay taking on that risk to have the river in your backyard and the ability to go out, get in your boat every day and go ride on the river. Those are the trade-offs that you take place when you're looking at homes in a water area. So if you're someone though who just says, hey, I cannot deal with severe weather, I cannot deal with hurricanes and all of that stuff, then maybe not look at Horry County as a place to move. Instead, maybe look at some of the counties inland a little bit more. Maybe look at like Florence County, Marion County. Those areas are even up through the upstate of South Carolina. Those are some other potential spots that would work instead. So the second thing that you want to take into consideration before moving to the area is, can I deal with the extreme heat that we have here in our area? Listen, a lot of people move to Myrtle Beach because they want to deal with milder winters and they don't want to deal with snow, and they want to have a place that they can go outside year round and deal with sun. You know, our friends, they just moved back from Michigan, and one of the things that they told us is, we're so excited to see blue skies then again on a regular basis. You know, here in the Myrtle Beach area, we're seeing over 300 days of sunny skies each and every year. They lived in Michigan for a while, and all winter long, it's gray, it's dreary, it's just overcast and just kind of depressing at times. So if you come here wanting to have that, that's great. But on the other hand, you have to take into consideration that you're going to deal with very high heat, very high humidity. You know, during the month of June and July, it was extremely dry here at the beach. We had historic high days of heat. With the high humidity and heat, temperatures were well up into the triple digits. You know, we did a beach baptism on a Sunday afternoon, and the temperature felt like during that time 116 degrees. It was very, very hot at that time. If you're someone who says, I can't deal with that heat, I can't deal with that humidity, then the Myrtle Beach area might not be right for you. But if you're someone who says, you know what, I don't mind staying inside during those times, the homes, they're designed and developed so that they can deal with the extreme heat. They have high ceilings, good central heat and air throughout, so the AC keeps the house cool. Bills are going to be affordable because it's all set up that way. If you're someone who says, I can deal with that and stay inside for a couple of days, then come on down. You're going to love living here. The next thing on the list that I want to talk about is that you're going to have to deal with here insects and bugs and snakes and alligators and all kinds of just stuff that you may not be used to where you live currently. You know, we live on a pond, and so during this time of year, the insects can be really, really bad. We recently helped friends who also moved to the Carolina Forest area unpack and move into their house, and while we were doing that, we were just being eaten alive during that time by the mosquitoes. Why? Because there's a pond behind their home too, and the yard had not been treated because it was a vacant home for a while. And so if you're someone who says, I don't want to deal with mosquitoes, I don't want to deal with those palmetto bugs. You know, those roaches, they're about that big, and all of a sudden you'll see one just crawling across the floor, and the only way you get rid of them is to go step on them. When you do, they crunch. Yeah, if you're someone who says, I don't want to deal with those things, and I don't want to deal with snakes, no thanks, not at all. I'm not dealing with alligators, then the Myrtle Beach area might not be the right place for you. But as a whole, with all of those things, if you leave those things alone, they're gonna leave you alone. You can have your house treated for the insects and pests. If they come and spray quarterly, you're not gonna deal with a lot of spiders. You're not gonna deal with the roaches. You're not gonna deal with the mosquitoes and all those things. And you'll be able to instead enjoy all of the beauty. Remember I talked about 300 days of sun just a couple minutes ago? You can go outside and enjoy the beautiful sunny weather Myrtle Beach has to offer instead. The fourth thing on the list that you have to take into consideration is that we are a tourist town. I know, I just blew your mind away, but Myrtle Beach is a tourist town. It is built for tourism. The main industry of Myrtle Beach is tourism. That's why we have all of the different things to go and enjoy in our area. But what that means is that for you, someone that is a local, you have to put up with it as well. You have to be able to deal with it. You have to know if you want to go to one of those premium restaurants inside Myrtle Beach, that you might have a 45-minute to an hour wait to sit down and eat at those restaurants. Instead, what do we do as a local? We don't go to those places. We go to the local spots on the west side of the waterway, away from all of the tourism. Or if we want to go to some of the popular local restaurants, they always are having, a lot of those places offer reservations. You go online, make a reservation, and you walk in the door and sit down. You know, our good friends, they had their anniversary come up and they said, hey, where can we go eat where we're not gonna have to wait for hours to get a table? I told them, go check out Clark's Seafood and Chop House up in Little River. They called up there, got a reservation that day. They called like 2 hours before they wanted to go, got the reservation, walked in, sat right down, and had a delicious, amazing meal. So if you want to deal with tourism and you're okay having to put up with it once in a while, then come on down to Myrtle Beach. But if you're someone who says, I don't want to deal with all the beachwear stores, I don't want to deal with all the traffic around the Sky Wheel, I don't want to have to deal with everyone at the water park and at the Upside Down House and the aquarium, Top Golf and golf courses and the beach and all of those things, then Myrtle Beach might not be the place for you to go. And it's okay. There's other options around the area. Go check out places like Conway, Aner, Longs, Loris. Some of those places might be a better fit for you. Obviously, the next thing on our list that we have to talk about, and it goes hand in hand with the tourism, is the traffic that comes along with it. Guys, listen, with all the tourists coming in and out of our area on a regular basis, that means traffic is going to be heavier. Roads like 501, you want to stay away from as much as possible. If you're stuck on 501 on a Friday afternoon in the middle of summer, just know it might take you an extra 25 to 30 minutes to get to where you need to be. But if you're someone who says, I don't have to go to 501 very often, or I'll figure out other routes around instead, then maybe Myrtle Beach is a spot you want to check out. In comparison, Myrtle Beach to other big cities though, our traffic is really not that bad. As I've talked about in the past, my wife, she's originally from Atlanta. She was just there visiting her family and they went to go downtown. They got stuck in traffic one of the days for 90 minutes, basically just stuck sitting there. I can tell you, unless there's a major accident and there's no place to turn around, you're not gonna ever get stuck for 90 minutes here in the Myrtle Beach area. In comparison to other big cities like Los Angeles or New York City or Charlotte even, our traffic here is very minimal. Yes, it gets a little bit higher during high tourism parts of the year, but most of the year it's not gonna be that bad. In our quote rush hour, you might see an extra 5 to 10 minute time on your trip, but overall it's not gonna make that big of a difference. As someone who lived here now for 20 plus years, I learn when those times of the day are, where those locations are, and I just simply plan ahead, add a couple extra minutes to my trip, and I never have a problem with it. Another one of the big gripes and complaints that I hear about our area is the amount of sales tax that you have to pay when you go out to dinner or purchase certain things in our area. In South Carolina, the state sales tax is set at 6%. But here inside the Horry County area, we have an additional 3% tax that is put on top of that. And then in addition to that, we currently have some of the rideshare, ride on a penny taxes that are in place that are going to raise it up a little more, up to almost 11%. Now, if I'm out somewhere at a restaurant eating and I order an adult beverage, there's going to be an additional tax on top of that for another 5%, meaning I'm going to pay close to 16% sales tax on that drink. So in comparison, if I go over to like Miyabi Jr., which is a little hibachi takeout place around the corner from my office, I could go right now, buy a teriyaki chicken bowl. It's gonna be about $11.25, but the tax on it's gonna be an additional $1.18. Now you may say, that is ridiculously high. It is high, but you have to take in consideration that here in South Carolina, we are the 6th lowest state in the country for property taxes. To keep that tax down, we have to collect the money somewhere else. In our area here in Horry County, as I mentioned earlier, tourism, millions and millions of people visiting the area, I would rather them pay that additional sales tax on their stuff when they go to their hotel, when they go to the restaurant, when they go out to some of the different tourism things. I'd rather them collect that money there to help keep my property taxes down. I don't mind paying an extra 20 to 30 cents on my chicken bowl when I go to eat once or twice a month versus someone who comes to town for a week and is going to spend an additional $100 to $150 in sales tax for their family of 4. That's where the money comes in that helps keep our property taxes much lower. But if you're someone who says, I don't want to deal with that high sales tax on things, then Myrtle Beach might not be the place for you. But just something, keep in mind, it does help in the long run. As we see that, where does that money go? It's what's collected in order to make our roads, when we have to widen a road or add a left turn lane or resurface a road. That's where that money comes in so that we don't have to have property taxes being paid $8,000 to $10,000 a year. You instead are paying $2,000 to $3,000 or maybe even less. You go buy a $300,000 home, make it your primary residence, you're looking probably around $1,500 a year for your taxes. Buy that same home in New Jersey or New York, you're probably more $8,000 to $11,000 in property taxes there. I'll take the $2,000 and pay a little bit more on my chicken bowl. The next thing that you have to take into consideration about our area is that Myrtle Beach is not a large city. We're considered really a small city. Our population of all of Horry County is right around 300,000 to 400,000. But inside the city limits of Myrtle Beach, you're looking probably around about 35,000 as the population. We don't have a lot of the big luxuries and things that larger cities may have. Like for example, one of the simple things, 5G internet. Well, it's coming to our area and some parts of the area have it now, but a lot of the area do not yet. You go to a big city like say Los Angeles or Atlanta or Charlotte or New York or some of these big cities, they've had it now for probably 2 to 3 years. The other thing we don't have is we don't have professional sports teams. We don't have a lot of public transportation to get around. Things that if you're in a large city, like I mentioned, it's part of living there. It's no big deal. But here, because we're a smaller city, we're not gonna have that feel. We're not gonna have those niceties, and we're not gonna have those things accessible to us. So if you're someone who says, I can't live without them, then Myrtle Beach might not be the place you wanna come. All right, guys, so I'm getting down to the last few things that I wanna share, but some of you that are watching this video are thinking about moving to the area, and you have some questions about it that are specific to your needs. Listen, I wanna help answer those things and make it as easy as possible for you to make the move from wherever you're coming here to the Myrtle Beach area. If you're interested in moving to the area, go down below to the description. You will find my email there. It's info@jeremyblanton.com. You can shoot an email, or if you want, go to jeremyblanton.com. You can schedule a 30-minute call right there. It connects and is synced directly up with my calendar, and we can book a 30-minute call. I'll call you, discuss your personal questions, and do whatever I can to help you make the move to the area much easier and smoother. All right, let's now get back to these issues. So the next one that I hear a lot of complaints about is that Myrtle Beach does not have a lot of seasonal change. Yes, we have fall. Yes, we have winter. Yes, we have spring and summer. For a lot of people, they think we just have 2 seasons, hot season and cool season, because there's not really a lot of change between your spring, your summer, and your fall. You might see where temperatures are in the 70s and 80s in the spring and fall, and in the summer it might go 80s to 90, and to some people that's just too hot all around. But then we have that mild winter where it goes down into the 50s or 60s. If you're someone who is used to being in an area that sees the beautiful leaves change color, and you can drive up through the mountains and see it all, Myrtle Beach is not gonna have that. Most of what you see here for vegetation is going to be pine trees. Those leaves are gonna turn from green to brown. They're gonna fall off, make a mess on the ground, and you're gonna go clean it up and go on with your day. So if you're someone who says, I want seasons, I wanna be able to feel we're in spring, which, hey, when spring comes, you'll know, your allergies will tell you, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But if you're someone who says, I wanna be able to see the blooming of everything and all that, Myrtle Beach doesn't really have it. It literally goes in like 2 days from brown grass to, hey, it's green, everything's blooming, and then we're back to the summer again. So you're not gonna see a lot of seasonal changes. If you can't deal with that, Myrtle Beach might not be the place you wanna come. So remember a minute ago I said about allergies? Listen, one of the things that you're gonna have to get used to if you're gonna live here is that Myrtle Beach can have some really severe pollen when it comes springtime. We're talking the cars that you have that are beautifully clean 1 minute are gonna be this yellowish green kind of mucinex color the next moment, where it's just gonna be, ugh. Your car's gonna be filthy, coated in pollen. You're gonna go wash it again, 10 minutes later it's going to be coated. I will tell you, as someone who deals with a lot of allergies here in our area, I have to basically take allergy medicine year round. I have a routine now. I basically in the morning do Flonase, the nasal spray, and then in the evening I take a Zyrtec. And between the two of those, I usually am pretty good and not usually dealing with a lot of problems. But even sometimes while doing all of that, I still have some times where it gets even more. So I will warn you, Myrtle Beach has a lot of seasonal allergies and things that you're going to deal with here in our area. So if you're someone who cannot deal with that, then Myrtle Beach might not be the place for you. But if you're someone like me that says, hey, all of the good that Myrtle Beach has to offer, the beautiful beaches, the beautiful weather, the things to do, all of that stuff, and I can deal with just taking a little bit of allergy meds, then come on down. You'll love living here. All right, and the final thing that I have to discuss is one of the big issues that we deal with here in our area, and it's probably one that everybody's going, why hasn't he talked about this one yet? And that is flooding. Guys, yes, Myrtle Beach is in a flood zone. If you actually go and pull up the maps of our area in all of Horry County, you will see that all of Horry County is in some sort of a flood zone. The question is, are you in the area where it's really, really bad flooding, or are you just an area that could potentially flood? Yeah, so let's talk about it a minute. In our area, there's basically 2 flood zones that you want to pay attention to. Are you in flood zone X, which is the good one? And when I say good, I put it in air quotes because no flooding is obviously good ever. But in flood zone X, the chances of flooding is very, very minimal. The other zone is AE. If you're in as flood zone AE, just know when you purchase your home, if you're doing a mortgage specifically, you're going to have to purchase flood insurance in addition to your regular wind and hail insurance policy. It could be fairly expensive, a couple $1,000s extra each and every year. So the people who are buying homes along the Waccamaw River in Conway, for example, or someone who buys a home down in some of the lower lying areas of Socastee where flooding takes place on a regular basis, just know you're gonna have that additional expense. Now, if you were to purchase your home, say on the other side of Conway, not on the water, but just maybe up on the northern end near where 22 meets 90, you buy a home there, you can get insurance policy for probably an additional $300 to $400, and you have then flood insurance plus your regular wind and hail insurance policy. So just know when you're buying in our area, we definitely want to take time to check into this. We want to look at certain things. If you're buying a home that's a resale, it's pretty easy. The first thing that we're going to go and check out is the residential property disclosure. And on the last page, it talks about, I think it's like question 23 through 25, it talks about flooding. It asks, does the home, is it part of a flood insurance program? Has it ever had FEMA claims against it? And if we see any of those boxes checked yes, then you probably don't want to purchase that home unless you're someone who says, I don't mind dealing with water, I'll do it because I want the view. If that's the case, then great, we'll go and buy the home. But if you're someone who says, I don't want to take the chance of flooding and having everything I own ruined, then we just simply move on to the next property. The other place we're going to go and check after that is we're going to reach out to my local insurance agency. For me, that's Terry Branson with We Insure Advocates. They are a great company to work with. If you need their information, shoot me an email. I'll get you hooked up with Terry, and she's going to pull up in her flood zone maps and in her different systems that she has and see instantly, hey, this home is in a flood zone. No, it's not in a flood zone. We're good to go. But she is a great resource to find out what I need to know about flooding in our area. So when it comes to flooding, yes, it is something that we deal with here in the Myrtle Beach area. You know, we just recently had Hurricane Debbie come through, and I would say while some of the areas of Horry County are dealing with some flooding issues right now, still even today, and we're about a week and a half out from the storm, most of the county as a whole went right back to day-to-day business as normal and business as usual within basically 24 hours of the storm coming through our area. So that's what we see most of the time on storms as they come through Myrtle Beach and through its surrounding areas. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. As I mentioned earlier, if you're thinking about moving to the area, reach out to me. My contact info is all down below. And as always, if you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, get that bell on, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.